welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by Netsertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. Netsertive talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Erin Martin, and this episode is brought to you by Netsertive. Today, our guest is Erin Walter, the CMO at Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steakburgers. I can pronounce that. Erin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So fun to be with a fellow Erin.
Here we are, Erin squared.
I love it.
Can you give us just a little bit of background of your role and what you do at Freddy's right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Freddy's for about 3.5 years. It's been an awesome, amazing ride and experience. So I lead the marketing team, and we have a great group of individuals that are focused on brand, digital marketing, local store marketing, PR, guest hospitality, guest recovery, and then R&D and culinary. A lot of different folks make up our small but mighty team, and we are just focused on driving sales and happy guests to Freddy's and to keep them coming back more often and spending more money and doing all the things, right? So that's always what our team is focused on. But it's been so far just an amazing experience, a really great company, and just an amazing growth trajectory as well. We're slated to open 60 plus locations in 2025. So we are keeping busy.
So given all that, what are some of the current marketing initiatives you guys have going on right now?
So 2025 is starting off to be an awesome year. You're going to see a lot of cool new things at Freddy's. For the past 18 months to 2 years, we've been working on what we're calling our core menu evolution. And you'll see that come to life in all of our restaurants. Over the course of the past 3 years, we've been really focused on an LTO strategy and seeing what our guests like, all making data-driven decisions on what will work, what resonates with the Freddy's guest. And so we've landed on this core menu evolution, which is just so exciting because it's a huge undertaking, first of all, but a huge change. So when you go through the drive-thru and when you come into a restaurant, you're going to say, wow, this is different. We're introducing 2 new steak burgers to our menu. And so those are former LTOs that have been super popular with guests. Our prime rib steak burger, which launched in summer of 24 and was our most popular LTO to date. It's amazing. 2 slices of the pressed patties and then the addition of the prime rib. It's just unbelievable, really a differentiator. You can't get it anywhere else. No doubt our guests are going to be super thrilled to have it back permanently. And then our grilled cheese steak burger, which just does all the right things, right? Who doesn't love a grilled cheese? Who doesn't love a steak burger? It's the combination of both. And it has this amazing tomato paste that almost feels like you're dipping your grilled cheese into a tomato soup. It's just insane. Chef Rick Petralia has done an amazing job with these innovations. 4 new signature Sunday custards. So giving the guest just more choice. We've seen that, and we know this too as guests, when we walk up and it's our decision to build our own sundae, you get, what am I going to do? What do I put on
Analysis paralysis.
Taking the guesswork out of it. And so we have these 4 new amazing creations. Actually have them right here because they're just so good. An Oreo Double Trouble, a Reese's Royale. We know that Freddy's guests are obsessed with Reese's. It's been some of our most popular LTO items when we have Reese's included. So thrilled to have that permanently on the menu. A cold brew caramel crunch, our first foray into kind of coffee flavors. And so to me, that too, the runway for that is so long. So I'm excited to see just how excited guests are going to be for that because it's so good. And a strawberry dream cake. And then last summer, we introduced a line of frosts, and those are coming back permanently as well. I know that our guests are going to be really thrilled. We tested it in restaurants for 6 months, and everybody loved it. So it all does start with the data. The Freddy's team, we have an amazing cross-functional team. It's what we call our product development team that is really made up of all departments. And so the idea may spawn from marketing, from Chef Rick, from looking at data of what's going to be hot in 2025, what are the new flavors, all of these things, right? To then get it to this group where we really dissect it. When items launch, we want them to launch as seamlessly and perfectly as possible. We want to make sure we've ironed out all of the kinks that we can before the big day. And so that product development team is just killer. Everybody has different mindset, different thoughts. We all bring different things to the table, right? The operational folks are looking at something completely different than we are. The purchasing team is going, wait, we've got to keep on track. And can we get these things? And that's really, it starts with the data. It moves over to this cross-functional team. Then it goes into a testing process. We have a lead there internally who keeps us all on track, keeps the data flowing, make sure that we're looking at all the right things. Does it affect speed of service? As you can imagine, launching all of these new items, a huge concern was, is it going to slow down the line? Because it doesn't. But that's things like that are always going to be top of mind for us. So how do we have the best experience? Make sure you still get your product as quick as you always have and how you expect it, and that you still have that experience. You experience everything the Freddy's way. So data is king at Freddy's. Testing is king. And we just want to make sure that, again, running a restaurant is you have 9,000 things happening in a day. And so when we do something like a huge menu launch, how do we make sure that it's really thorough and really thoughtful, and we've really uncovered everything that we can? We've had meetings with managers and multi-unit managers, and we have all of the kind of operational feedback. We have all of the purchasing feedback. We have all of the details from training. Think about all that goes in training wise to launch a new menu like this. That cross-functional team is amazing at just making sure we can make these kinds of LTOs, core menu evolutions, things like that, as seamless as possible down to the cashier.
Yeah. And I know another way you guys use data was in loyalty, your guys' loyalty program, knowing your customer base well. So can you talk a little bit about data and that side of things, of what you do for current customers and all of those programs?
Yeah. So the digital space is really a bright spot for Freddy's. 3 years ago, we didn't even have an app. And today we have close to 4 million, what we call Fred heads. So these are our loyalists, our users who are active, who want to hear from us. And so understanding those guests are so important. All guests are so important, but we know these guys come back more often. They've shared their data with us. They come back more often. They spend more money. They're a big part of our brand and any brand, right? The loyalists are just an amazing group. And so how do we dig in and understand what they want, how they want to be rewarded, how they want to be spoken to? And I say this, and everybody, you hear this time and time again, meet the guest where they want to be met, give them the offer that they want to see. I have no doubt that in 10 years, like, we will really be receiving this one-on-one marketing that we always talk about. But it's, how do we segment our list? It's not one-to-one today, but how do we segment our list where I'm giving you the offer that you want at the time that you want it, and I'm driving you back at an X multiple versus our guest who isn't a loyalist. So always looking at that. Our internally, our BI team and our IT team does a really wonderful job of, for me, I'm a visual person. And so our internal system, Domo, gives me a beautiful graphic every day, updated of, okay, here's your user list. Here's how this offer that you ran this weekend performed. And I can go in and drill down and see what's happening real time, which is awesome. It's a blessing and a curse. Like,
Yes.
that go, what happened yesterday?
Although I would say that is such a blessing for so many marketers who are like, oh my God, if I just had that. You definitely, I think, are on more of the modern advanced side to be able to have access to a Domo, visualize things. What would you tell marketers who don't have that in place? Because there's a ton that people can still do without over engineering.
For years, until Freddy's, honestly, I had all this data. It was just in an Excel spreadsheet, right? And so while this is beautiful and visually wonderful, and for a marketer who is a visual person, I'm like, oh yes, this is so great and easier for me to digest. An Excel spreadsheet does the job, right? We can get there. I think sometimes it's just a few more turns and twists and understanding it. And so having these amazing tools is amazing, but an Excel spreadsheet does the job too, right?
Yeah.
Like we can get there, but dang if a visualization isn't pretty.
I know. Yes. I love me some good data, but I always think, especially when it comes to customer experience and learning about what brought a customer in, like you could always go talk to a customer, go visit a store, go see that actual experience live and talk to customers, ask them things. I think one example that always come to mind for me, which I freaking love, is the UPS store. I love them. I love them because they know their customer base. I'm a busy working mom. And whenever I go in there, there's like a tiny little area for kids to play with their own little mail thing while you're doing your thing. And I so often will go to them more often because I know I have a kid in tow and they make it so easy to just have them occupied while you do your thing for 2 seconds. The kids don't yell and scream when they're going because they're like, oh yeah, that one store that has the play stuff I can play with. So there's also just, if you walk into a UPS store, it's okay. They've got a few things down because they've noticed like customers that come in are parents with kids in tow. Let's cater to that.
Distract those littles while we fill out more.
You don't need a ton of data to just look at your customer and see that there's kids in tow. So it's like, you can also get some of that experience by just having one-to-one real experience.
I mean, being in a restaurant and just sitting there and watching and then buying people a sweet treat is one of my favorite things. Because you as marketers, oftentimes we're sitting at our desk, we're strategizing, we're trying to drive people to a restaurant, but we're not sitting in the restaurant every day like the operator. So to have that mindset and sit there and go on really busy days, right? So a huge day at Freddy's is Veterans Day. We love our veterans. Freddy was a World War II veteran. And so our team charged the marketing team with spend time in the restaurant on Veterans Day. See what they're dealing with. See how, yes, we're driving all these guests and everybody gets a comp card for a free meal through the end of the year from Veterans Day through the end of the year. But just sit there, watch the guests, talk to them, maybe help refill drinks, like help in the dining room as you can, and just talk. The guest is going to tell you what they like and what they don't like. And a lot of times in person, I feel like it's so valuable. It's easy to get behind a computer, behind your keyboard and complain. I feel like that's where we complain the most. But talking face to face, there's just something so valuable about that. And so our team had a great time spending the day in the restaurant, seeing what was happening, understanding the operational complexities. Because we'll go, oh, isn't this a great idea? As marketers, like, oh, isn't this so great? And then the operations team goes, wait, how do we do that? So how do we blend the two together, make sure that we drive the guest, they make the guest so happy when they're there and have this wonderful, hospitable experience. And so that's been a fun part too of this product development team, but just all these cross-functional teams at Freddy is just understanding all of the different nuances of all the different departments and how we can work together. At the end of the day, the number one outcome is the guest and how happy they were. And so that's the goal that we're all looking for and looking to achieve, this just like wonderful experience.
Yeah, it's such a good experience for an internal team to experience that like joy and happiness and pride of your brand, of what you're building together when you actually get out of the building too. That's, I think, so great for internal teams.
I agree.
Yeah. So tell me more about your rewards program that you guys do, or loyalty program through the app. Is there anything else cool that you guys have going on right now, or more data-driven insights?
It's technology, so it's always evolving and changing. A cool release that we have this year, again, it's listening to your guests and meeting them where they want to be met, right? Today you can order for delivery and you can order for mobile carryout. You have a lot of requests for guests that are like, I would like to order and eat in the restaurant. And so we have a dine-in order mode coming in one of our next releases, but we heard it enough that we were like, okay, this is a need. People see the line and think, oh, I wish that my meal was just ready. And now it will be. So that'll unlock, just, again, you don't have to wait in line, which is always excellent. And it just unlocks, again, meeting you where you want to be met. We also just in December launched our catering website, app, online order component of the brand, essentially. Huge undertaking to have that integrated into the app. You can order catering online, you can get points for catering, which is awesome. And we know that in the catering space, there's a big gap with kind of burgers. And so we're excited to fill that gap. And that's an area where in 2025, we're focused on how do we grow catering? How do we make that experience wonderful? It's super easy now to order just at your fingertips. And then as the admin to get points then too, I think is pretty awesome. So you can enjoy Freddy's more.
Yeah, I think an app specifically, I think is something that all franchise marketers need to take inspiration and a playbook page out of the QSR and dining world, because truly apps are amazing for collecting the data like you're talking about, but then also serving that best customer experience. There's so many brands where I'm like, oh man, if you just had a better booking system through an app or XYZ, name it. There's so many other brands out there who need to pick up a QSR page of best practices to develop an app and all the benefits that come with it.
Well, and working with just best in class partners, recognizing that. And while it is a marketing functionality, it is certainly an IT functionality as well. So we coined this, we didn't coin it, but internally our MarTech team, and we have 2025 MarTech strategies, because we have to be lockstep with the IT team in all of these. I'll sit on these calls and yes, I can say, okay, let's talk about the journey and what it looks like. I need that IT team for all of these behind the scene things that I am never going to know and never going to understand. And I'm so grateful that they do, and they can nerd out and do their IT thing, and we can do our marketing thing together really in harmony. So it's actually been, that too has been a really great just evolution internally of bobbing and weaving and figuring out ways to work. And we're in a really good place. We actually too just hired a new director of digital marketing, which I'm thrilled about, to work with all of these partners and the internal teams. Because at Freddy's, we don't have that in-house. We use external agencies. And so managing these different groups is a full-time job. Lots of good things to come on the digital side of the business for Freddy's, something we really, truly believe in, invest in. I will say to our franchisees, really believe in it as well. And they can see the benefit. What's so beautiful about digital from a marketer's perspective is I can share the data so easily, right? It might be harder to explain how, whatever.
Way harder.
This Facebook advertisement reached these people and spent this money. The digital is really more black and white. And so it's just, you can wrap your head around it and understand and see the graphs of, okay, every month we're getting more loyalists and we're getting more actives, and here's how the offers are redeeming. And so you see it almost immediately, which does make the story so wonderful to tell.
Yeah, for any educational conversation, you have to bring data to the party. Otherwise, you end up in a I feel, I think, I whatever mode, which isn't going to move the needle.
And it's going back to the media side of it. It is so complex to explain that and understand it and live in that world. Whereas this digital piece is, again, it's just so black and white. We have it visualized. Currently at Freddy's, it's visualized internally, but we're working towards, what does that look like for you as a franchisee? How do you log in and say, what does my restaurant do on the digital side? How many guests have favorited my location? And what does that mean kind of one-to-one for my business? So that's exciting. That'll come in 2025 internally for our franchisees, because we've done a great job too of training them on the data. They log in every morning, they look at sales, they look at their operations pages and all those things. And so how do I weave marketing into that and tell that story? So it just becomes a part of their daily boom, boom, boom activity, reading the news every morning, every morning and saying, okay, here's what I'm looking at.
In your
tracking against. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're logging in, what are the main things that you look at? Like Domo, for example, when you're checking that out, what's the major KPIs that you're managing to?
Every day, every morning, I look at comp sales first. So on days like last week when it snowed every day in our major markets, it was heartbreaking. Although I know that there's nothing, I can't control the weather yet. We can't control the weather yet, but it's, oh, dang it. So that's the first thing I look at typically. And then depends on what's going on. While we were doing this core menu and Sunday test, we had amazing dashboards that I was looking at probably almost daily, just to track, okay, how's this test going? How many have we sold? What does the percentage look like? What does the speed of service look like? Just understanding. It could be something big like a test. It could be this morning I logged in and looked at how our offer from the weekend performed, right? And tracking that. It depends, but first and foremost, always I'm looking at how were sales the day before.
Yeah. I would say you guys are living the dream or doing a good job on the marketing front in that regard. What else is working for you guys on the digital front right now then? Anything else to throw in or add into what we've already talked about?
We definitely have things slated for 2025. Certainly the addition of this new digital marketing manager is going to unlock more things that we couldn't get to simply from just a people and time perspective. Even simple things. It's funny, right? Like I was looking at our website and I'm saying, how could we optimize this? How could it be better? How always looking at the user experience on the digital side, less clicks, more ease. We have also that flows into Domo voice of the guest. So how do we segment what our guests are saying about their digital experience and add that to what do we need to fix? What do we need to improve? How do we better?
That's cool.
Just make that experience better. And again, the guest is going to tell you, right?
Mhm.
You get the app all the time, but I also think too, you do get that tunnel vision when you're looking at something all the time. You may not notice what a guest noticed. So we're looking at that all the time to make those decisions, because that is another database decision. If you say, okay, these 100 people said X, we probably need to take a look at it, right?
Yeah.
The releases this year will include just user experience things. Certainly that dine-in order mode is a big one. Talking a lot about mobile pickup in the drive. We don't currently do that. Can we do that? Would it mess with operations? Would it slow down the drive-through? All of those, again, those types of conversations have to be had, but guests do ask for that very frequently. Chick-fil-A has trained them. We know that as Chick-fil-A consumers that we just get in the
Same
drive-through.
with Starbucks. I'm
That's
like, yeah.
right. I know. So how can we, again, it's about meeting the guests where they want to be met, but making sure that we still do it the Freddy's way, that we don't hinder our operations in any way. We don't slow down the line. Those kinds of things will still happen in 2025. We did a lot in 2024. So 2025, I think will be more maintaining, making these small tweaks, but those small tweaks over time make a big difference. So yeah, it's a great category. I love the digital side of the business. I'm so happy over the past 18 months or so, I've really dug in and gotten to learn a lot, certainly. And just been a big part of that. And again, I'm excited about the catering opportunity. I just feel like everybody loves Freddy's, and to have it at a party or back in the office, it's just going to be a fun experience and something different that you're not getting all the time catered.
Yeah.
There's a lot there that I think we can unlock as far as sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. One thing I've been asking everyone too, what I want your take on is any cool AI tools that you love. AI is obviously huge and everywhere, but there's a million of them. So it's which ones are actually good, which ones are shitty. So are there any ones that you love and use or your team loves?
Yep. So it's funny, on the marketing side of the business for marketing Freddy's, we're not using any AI to date. Who knows what will happen in the future? But internally and personally, I really have come to love we have internally the Copilot, which is the Microsoft version. There's nothing like staring at a blank screen and you just can't get started.
Yeah.
Building whatever. For example,
first draft.
Right, I was working on like a 30, 60, 90-day plan for this new guy. And I had enough, but I just was like, oh, I kept getting stuck. I plugged that right in and I was like, oh, genius. And then you go back and you edit it and you make it yours and you put it in your
refine the output
things. But there's that, to me personally in my professional life, has been so awesome because it's like going to the gym. The hardest thing is getting started. Yeah. And so sometimes when you're staring at that blank page, it feels so daunting. And that has just been so helpful for me, even just for little silly stuff. How do I better say this? What word is better? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's just making me, I don't know, think in a different way, which I've enjoyed. So we've done some of that internally. Again, nothing no marketing outwardly with AI yet, but I think on the digital side of the business, there's so much opportunity there, again, for understanding your guests, speaking to them one-on-one. How do I segment these? Like that machine learning part of it, I know will come, which is cool.
I think that's the piece that I'm most excited about with some of the new tools that are coming out too, is the data analysis and storytelling from different inputs. So it's okay, instead of me manually sifting through it or needing to have a special analytics team in-house, or like, how do you just take all of those inputs and learn in a massive way? Help me make sense of all this craziness to inform the next steps. That's what I'm super excited about. There's nothing right now that I'm using that can help with a ton of that outside of, I think we have put together a few things that are cool in terms of just using any AI tool and putting some like videos of marketers talking about top trends or like podcasts in, and then basically saying, okay, check out these 10 videos. What are the highlights and trends and pain points that people are saying? So there's things like that where it's, okay, yeah, do a mass analysis and then the key pain points here, whatever it may be.
Isn't that so cool? Something that could have taken you hours and would have taken you hours. I even just, when you were talking, I thought about, I oftentimes find myself reading every single survey result. Because then once you can't stop, and then you come up on like the one negative or whatever it may be. Like, wouldn't that be wonderful to just go, and it gave me this output? Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of advancement in that arena with specific tools that can help with that kind of stuff. Because there's obviously ChatGPT, and then like the Notebook LM from Google, where you can actually input the different documents to help with some of that analysis. So I think more tools like that are going to be on the rise. It'll be fun to play with.
Even sitting at conferences, probably the one that we were at, I've sat by a lot of people who are recording, taking notes. And then the AI tool is highlighting it for them. I'm sitting here with my trusty dusty notebook because I'm gonna
everyone needs a notebook every once in a while.
Kiddos beside me. I'm like, y'all are onto something. This is really smart. And so then I find too, I literally was sitting by this guy not long ago, but he was so invested and he was really paying attention because he wasn't worried about taking notes because he knew his phone was doing it for him, which is so cool.
Yes, being present and not worrying about the note factor is huge. I definitely want to get to your role and your transition into the CMO seat and just what that journey's been like, advice in terms of leadership to anyone else as you've gone through your own journey. I know it's one of those things that I personally recognize as well in terms of, oh my gosh, that's you're always trying to evolve and grow, especially when you're making a VP to CMO leap. It's what really makes the difference between a CMO and VP. How would you actually define that leap? Can be a little squishy. So I'm just curious more about your evolution and what advice you would have for other leaders who are trying to get to that next level as well.
It's interesting, right? We work our whole careers thinking about, okay, next level and leveling up and how are we going to get, and then also the comparison game and we can't do this. I can't do this. A lot I have thought that, I have small children. I'm not ready for that. Or like the things that we tell ourselves. And then you find yourself in the position. And so it's been a solid 3 months over here. And I will tell you, I feel differently as an employee. I don't know fully how to describe it. There is some change. 3 months ago, I felt super overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, can I do this? How am I going to do this? This is a lot. This is different. And then when you sit back and do the work, we can do it. We know how to do it. This is what we have been doing for 20 years.
Yeah.
You have the tools in your toolbox. It's a mind shift. And so I will say one of the things that have been super helpful, I did hire an amazing executive coach, and we've only had a few sessions, but leaving those sessions, it feels like a work therapy session, but in a wonderful way of training. She sat in the seat. She has just a different perspective and knowledge and just can guide and coach and help and be an ear. And so that has been really amazing because for me, one of the things, and I think women feel this a lot, is we're fearful, right? We're in a room with all men, and being the only woman, you can feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? They know everything. They're so confident. And so part of it is this mind game. Get over the fear. Do it. What you have to say is valuable. You know what you're talking about. You've been doing it for years. It's just doing it, honestly.
Yeah.
I was listening to, I love Mel Robbins. I don't know if I have not read her new book, but the 5-second rule, I had her at a conference before she was famous. And I remember just watching her and thinking, you're onto something, girl, because we do.
You remind me of the
and
5-second
overthink.
rule. I read that one, but what was the concept of it?
It's just do it. 5, 4, 3, 2,
okay.
go.
Yeah.
Even yesterday on the podcast I was listening to with her, she was drilling it down to, I'm not a morning person. I hate to get out of bed. And so every morning I say to myself, when my alarm goes off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up.
Oh, yes, yes.
And it's an interesting perspective, because she said after the 5 seconds, then this takes over. And we start to overthink and we start to question and we think, oh, I shouldn't say that. And it's just do it. Just say it. Just make the move, because probably what you're going to say is right and accurate. And if that's what you're going to say, that was what your gut reaction is. There's something about that that's really powerful. So I think for me, leaning into that, owning it, like putting on my big girl pants.
And I love that executive coach example too, because it's also okay to not know what you don't know. So instead of trying to boil the ocean of, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this because I haven't had the experience, that is the epic part of being a part of the franchise arena. Like there's a million marketers who you can gain from their experience to fill in any holes you have. That's why mentoring ends up being so good, because you can easily fill in, again, that experience. If you don't have it, you're never going to live 80 million lives to have all the experience you want. So never try to just know you're not always going to know everything. Duh. And if you do, like something's wrong with you.
And that was, it's
funny. Everything.
I have said, I don't know what I don't know. I feel like 100 times over the past 3 months. And one of my big fears was the boardroom. I don't know that. I have never stepped foot in a boardroom. I've had the aftermath of the boardroom.
Yeah.
It happened. Here's what we need to do. But I've been the one sitting in there. So that really, again, made me fearful. And so I talked to everybody on the board prior and just said, hi, what can I do? How can I better approach this? What do you need from me to understand how to do it? So how do I tell our story, but really succinctly? With being very data focused, not on a tangent, and all of these things. So it's been, so far, it's been an amazing experience. And I think over the course of the past few years, for me, I've been involved in a lot of kind of just women in leadership and conferences and different mentoring things. And it is becoming more and more of a passion for me, because I think we all feel the same way. And we can do this. And how do I do it for myself? But then how do I talk about it so that others know we're in this together? Like we all feel the same way. And I was sitting at a conference last year in Nashville, and the front seats were left empty. And the girl said, did you think that these were reserved? And everybody was like in the back. And she was like, they're reserved for you. We need to take that first seat. And listen, this is preaching to the choir, because I have to tell myself this too. It's really hard when
it's not easy.
When you're an overthinker and some of those things. So I'm so happy that this like newfound passion has come as I've grown older and stepped into different roles, because I think it's important. And I've really enjoyed what I've learned from these other women and these other conferences and groups over the course of the past few years, because it's just really insightful and makes you feel not alone. Honestly.
Yeah, I really appreciate that leadership. And I think being vulnerable enough to say, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm doing it anyway, gives other people courage to be like, okay, that's what it takes. All the cliches are true. Like
they are.
You need to be uncomfortable, and there's no one who's going to get you there besides your own ass. So go make yourself uncomfortable. That's
so true. Which is so hard. And then I'll say to my husband, you would do this and not even bat an eye. And he's like, yeah. Okay, so why am I batting an eye? Think like him. Go do it.
5-second rule. Get it done.
Do it. Yes. Thanks, Mel.
Love it. Before we close out, last question for you is if there's anything I didn't ask that you wish I did? Not that there has to be, but is there anything wish you could have touched on before we sign off?
That's a great question. I think for me, just in general, Freddy's has been such an amazing experience that I hope continues for years and years. I was at my previous company for 14 years. And so I tend to be a lifer, which I like. I love to dig in, and I don't know, just the franchise community and the relationship part of the franchise community with marketing is such a huge thing. It's hard, unless you live in the marketing world, it's hard to understand it. And so how do I have these relationships, and how do I build these relationships with franchisees for them to trust how I'm spending their money, is that I'm doing it in the best way possible, that they respect those decisions that we're making, that they know they're data backed. And so the relationship part of the franchise business, to me, I think is one that can't be missed because it's what we do every day. I have people texting me and calling me, and we're going to visit restaurants and not only talking to franchisees, but talking to team members and multi-unit managers. And this is a people business, and marketing is a people business. Sometimes we sit at our desk and we're so focused on, I've got to get this done and I've got to do my list. And having that human connection and that outreach and just putting it all away for a second and saying, hey, let's have a chat and see what's really on your heart. What's really the core issue of this? How can we help better serve you? It goes such a long way. And I often find myself, I may be dreading that conversation. Oh, I don't want to have this tough conversation with somebody. And then I leave them going, okay, I learned a lot. I now understand potentially their perspective, and hopefully vice versa. So I think don't lose that personal connection in the franchising business. It's so important. And often we're in a technological world. It's easier to shoot an email and a text, but sometimes just having that nice face-to-face conversation, having a quick Zoom, having a Teams call, just goes so far.
Oh yeah, which is why I appreciate Freddy's and you so much too, because you have such awesome examples of marketing. It's so inspirational. Literally, when I saw you at FranCXC, I was like, we have to have you on the podcast.
That was
a great brand with amazing ways that you're doing things and staying really, I think, modern for us to take a ton of ideas from. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for coming on today.
Yeah, this has been awesome. It's always so fun to do stuff like this and to just share about the brand and us, and just breaks up the day, do something really fun and different, and just educate the folks out there listening. And hopefully now everybody will come into Freddy's and try one of these amazing new products, because it's going to be just a wonderful experience and everybody's going to leave happy and satisfied.
Thank you again, Erin, and thanks for listeners for listening in to another episode of The Art of Franchise Marketing.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by Netsertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netsertive.com.